Have you ever met someone and within days it felt like they mattered more than they should? Like somehow your mind skipped all the usual steps. No slow build, no careful distance, just instant emotional gravity. And the strange part is, you know it's happening. You can feel yourself getting attached too fast, but you don't stop it because a part of you doesn't want to. It feels good at first, that sudden connection, that warmth, that feeling of finally being seen. But what most people don't realize is this: getting attached too fast is rarely about the other person. It's about something much deeper, something quieter, and something you've probably been carrying for a long time. See, people think attachment is about love, but psychologically, it's often about relief from loneliness, relief from overthinking, relief from the constant feeling that something is missing. And when someone shows up who temporarily fills that space, your brain doesn't say, "Let's take this slow." It says, "Don't lose this." That urgency, that emotional intensity. It's not random, it's your mind trying to protect something. But here's where it gets interesting. Because not everyone experiences this the same way. Some people can meet someone, enjoy their presence, and still stay grounded. Others, they start imagining a future within hours. They replay conversations, they read into small details, they feel a kind of emotional closeness that hasn't actually been built yet. Why does that happen? There's a concept in psychology called attachment patterns. And while we won't go too technical here, the idea is simple. The way you learn to connect with people early in life quietly shapes how you connect with them now. If connection once felt uncertain, or inconsistent, or like something you had to earn, then your brain may have learned to hold on tightly when it finally appears, even if it's too soon, even if it's unclear, even if it's not fully real yet. And that's the part most people miss. Because when you get attached too fast, you're not reacting to what is. You're reacting to what it represents, the possibility, the meaning, the feeling of finally. But there's a hidden cost to this, and it doesn't show up immediately. At first, everything feels intense in a good way. You think about them often. You feel emotionally invested. You care, but slowly. Something shifts because the attachment grows faster than the actual connection. And when that happens, you start depending on signals that aren't stable. A delayed reply suddenly feels heavy. A small change in tone feels significant. Silence feels louder than it should. And now, instead of enjoying the connection, you're trying to hold it together. This is where a lot of people begin to feel confused because they tell themselves, "I just care deeply." But deep care usually grows over time. This feels different. This feels urgent. And urgency is rarely calm. It's usually driven by something underneath, something that hasn't been fully understood yet. But here's the part that might change how you see this entirely. What if getting attached too fast isn't a flaw? What if it's actually a signal? Not that something is wrong with you, but that something inside you is asking to be seen. Because people who attach quickly often feel deeply. They notice things others overlook. They connect emotionally in ways that are rare. And that's not something to erase, but it is something to understand. Because without awareness, that same depth can turn into dependency. And that's where things start to hurt. But before we go further, there's one question you need to ask yourself. And it's not as simple as it sounds. Are you attached to the person or to the feeling they give you? Because the answer to that question changes everything. Because once you start looking at that question honestly, you begin to notice something subtle but powerful. Sometimes it's not the person you're holding on to, It's the version of yourself that exists when they're around. The calmer you, the happier you, the version of you that feels chosen. And that's why letting go feels so difficult, because it doesn't feel like you're losing them. It feels like you're losing that version of yourself too. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They try to fix this by pulling away completely. They tell themselves, I won't get attached again. They build walls. They act distant. They try to become someone who doesn't feel as much, but that doesn't solve the problem. It just hides it. Because the truth is, you were never too much. You were just attaching without understanding why. And awareness changes everything. When you understand your patterns, you don't lose your ability to feel deeply. You just gain the ability to stay grounded while you do. So what does that actually look like? It means you can like someone without making them your emotional center. It means you can enjoy connection without rushing to define it. It means you can feel excitement without turning it into expectation. And that shift is quiet, but it's powerful. Because now, instead of asking, do they like me enough? You start asking, do I actually feel safe being myself here? That one question alone can save you from a lot of emotional confusion. Because fast attachment often skips evaluation. You don't pause to see who the person really is. You focus on how they make you feel. And feelings, while important, can sometimes be misleading, especially when they're filling a deeper emotional gap. This is why some connections feel intense, but unstable. They're built on emotion, not understanding. And without that foundation, even the strongest feelings can collapse. But here's something most people don't talk about. Slowing down doesn't mean losing the connection. It means giving it space to become real. Because real connection doesn't need urgency. It builds through consistency, through clarity, through time. And time reveals things that intensity hides. It shows you how someone responds when things aren't perfect. It shows you whether their words match their actions. It shows you whether the connection can breathe or if it only survives in emotional highs. And once you start noticing that, you stop chasing intensity. You start valuing stability. But let's be honest for a moment. There's a reason intensity feels so attractive. It's immediate. It feels like certainty. It gives you a story before the reality has even formed, and your mind loves that. Because uncertainty is uncomfortable. But growth doesn't happen in certainty. It happens in observation, in patience, in allowing things to unfold without forcing meaning onto them. And that's not easy, especially if you're used to feeling everything deeply. But it is necessary because the goal isn't to stop attaching. The goal is to attach with awareness, to stay connected to yourself while connecting with someone else, to feel without losing your balance. And that takes practice. It takes catching yourself in those small moments when you start overthinking a message, when you start imagining outcomes too early, when you start placing emotional weight on things that haven't been built yet. And instead of judging yourself, you pause, you breathe, and you gently bring yourself back, not away from the connection, but back to yourself. Because the strongest relationships are not built on urgency. They're built on two people who don't lose themselves in the process. So if you've ever felt like you get attached too fast, maybe it's not something to be ashamed of. Maybe it's something to understand. Because within that pattern, there's depth, there's sensitivity, there's the ability to care in a way that many people can't. And when you learn how to balance that, it doesn't become a weakness. It becomes your strength, but only if you remember this one thing. The right connection won't make you feel like you have to hold on tightly. It will feel steady enough that you don't have to. And when you experience that, you'll realize something quietly powerful. You were never too attached. You were just looking for something real in places that moved too fast to hold it.